Alright, Diablo 4 players, let's talk about it. Snapshotting. How can you actually do it in the game? And this is very important. I'm not even kidding when I say that you can 100 times your damage depending on the build that you're playing, because you might be scaling a bunch of overpower and crit, and, well, when you can get 100% overpower and crit, it matters quite a bit. So, we're going to be talking about the snapshotting, how you can actually activate it, and how it actually works, because there's several different classes that heavily benefit from this. The Necromancer, the Druid, the Rogue, the Barbarian, they could all do it. It doesn't really matter what class. Pretty much, to be honest, most classes can do it. So first off, let me go ahead and kind of give you a picture that will kind of make a little bit of sense. The point of snapshotting is to get all these buffs, and think of it kind of like you're taking a picture of like all your damage bonuses, right? So you have all these damage bonuses on your character sheet, right? Like this overpower, I have 4,000. If I have 0 chance to overpower, or 3%, well, this number is very, very low. Because, well, in reality, even though we have like 4,000, it's not going to apply in every single hit. But if I'm able to apply this plus 4,000 on every single hit, getting all these other multipliers, this is where snapshotting becomes incredibly valuable. So, to go over how it can work, there's multiple different ways that it can work. It can work off of just snapshotting via like a skill and a bonus. It could be a passive. It could be on the Paragon board. There's so many different ways to do it. But I'm going to show you guys how it works on, let's say, this ultimate. Again, it doesn't matter if you're playing Druid or not. I'm just trying to show you guys how to snapshot. So a lot of players are right now, they're running the Zan rune, and it doesn't matter how you're activating it. But one thing to take note of with your snapshotting is specifically watching when is your snapshot going to be taking place. That is a big factor in how you can activate it. So for example, for my build over here, it could be Igni, it could be Bach, it could be Neo. It doesn't matter what rune you're playing, and it doesn't even have to be a rune. You could snapshot just with your passives as well. But in this example, I'm going to use the rune word Zan because it's a very popular one in Season 7 right now. So how it works is it's going to store these offerings. And every single time I cast a skill, you're going to see this one over here, because this is what Zan does. It builds up, and I'm going to have 100% crit and 100% overpower. Now, that only applies, it says, the next skill. Now, I can activate my skill even off of that. As long as I have snapshotted it, I can continuously get that effect infinitely, okay? It's not just my next skill, it is literally forever, and I'll show you guys how to do it. So in our instance, we have to activate a skill, and when I activate the skill, we need to gain the Zan rune. There are 2 different ways to see if you are able to gain the benefit. The first one is, if you see over here, there is this little triangle that's in pink, and then there's also like a black, tinier triangle. When the triangle reaches full pink, that is when I have the power. You can also alternatively read on your bar over here, it will say gain Zan, and let me show you guys this. So if I activate my Blood Howl, you will see this goes up. This white line indicates how much progression we have until we reach the next area. When this goes all the way up and then this thing becomes pink, then I have now gotten the Zan rune. You can see gain Zan. Now I have snapshotted this. Now what's important is you may think, okay, well now your ultimate, you have this ability, right? And it's going to last until it ends, and then you have to do it again. No. The point of this snapshot in particular, it's different with a lot of them, but you can see I can activate this again as long as it never goes on cooldown. It has already been snapshotted, so the game already registers that as, oh, you've already gotten the bonus. It's still activating. Now, it may not be the case with every single build, but you can see these numbers over here. I mean, on the higher end, it can hit for several billion, but you may need a snapshot multiple times to activate your next other ability over here, because this one over here says our next overpower, which is part of one of the new season Witchcraft powers, which is called, which one is it? Force of Will. Now, if I want to snapshot this, I have to make sure that my next overpower is going to be able to benefit from this as well. So if I activate something else, as long as we can reach that Zan, that next skill will then also overpower. Remember, in this instance over here, it's going to be the next 2. So we would get a benefit from 2 of them if I was to activate it. So if you can see the next overpower over here, I can activate it, and now I'm going to get even more damage. So now I have 2 things snapshotted. I have this other bonus because it's my next skill. So it's able to maintain this, and this is how some people's damage just goes through the moon, and this is how originally people were getting negative damage numbers. You were just snapshotting again and again and again. Some of these may get patched, just as a heads up, but this is a huge source of your damage in the game. And snapshotting has existed, by the way, since Diablo 3, so it's not really what I would consider an exploit. It's just more so you are kind of taking a screenshot of what your character is currently like doing, and then you're trying to maintain that buff. If they end up nerfing it, I'll update you guys on it, but this is one way of doing it. Okay, I want to show you guys another way of snapshotting. It doesn't have to be the runes. You can do this with other bonuses, and let me swap to a completely different class so you guys can see. Okay, so now we're on the Rogue, and I'm going to show you guys how to snapshot, and we won't even count any of the runes, because I know technically the runes are for Vessel of Hatred, which, you know, some people don't have the expansion, but you can still snapshot different things. You don't have to just do runes. I'm going to go ahead and actually explain this one. So with Rogue, it's actually kind of interesting because the imbuement skills will actually apply to your next like 3-4 skills, however many bonuses to imbuements. Like right now, this one I have 5, right? The next 5 attacks will actually have this bonus. But if I use a skill, you can see this 5 will go down to a different number. Well, we went back into town technically, so it resets the number, but it'll use that one. But you can infinitely keep your imbuements up with, let's say, a skill like Dance of Knives, which is a channeled skill. Now, keep in mind, if you're playing Sorc, that could be Incinerate. If you're Bard, this is Whirlwind. There's a lot of different skills that can still apply to the snapshot. Specifically, channeled and duration skills are the main ones that you want to try to activate. But in this instance, we also have more than just this. So it's not only going to just infinitely give us that Shadow Imbue and how I had infinite Shadow Imbue daggers. It's not just with the Dance of Knives here, but I can also extend this further with my Paragon board. So on the Paragon board, there are a few different ones. There's ones where, like, if you use a Cutthroat skill, your next Marksman skill deals that, like, bonus. So you can actually use that. But I'm going to use this one as the example for the sake of this video, which is Dance Macabre. So what it says is casting a mobility or subterfuge skill increases the damage of your next skill by 75x. That is actually pretty massive, right? So now I've shown you guys the runes, and I've also shown you Paragon. But you can extend this even further. So if I go to my skill tree over here, we have a skill called Concealment. Now what Concealment does is it makes you go invisible, but we're not really here for like going invisible. We're here for specifically this one over here, the Subverting Concealment. So it says, the skill that breaks concealment will always be guaranteed critically strike and make enemies vulnerable. So I'm going to have infinite ability to get critical strike. Now, to be honest with the Rogue, a lot of people can make this one go up, trick attacks, and you can get pretty much an insane amount of crit also. It's going to give you crit chance and damage. So this is big because we can have 100% crit on our build because the next skill, which is going to last pretty much forever. Now, I also want to mention, just as a quick tip, if you click on anything, when you stop channeling, a channeled skill is a little bit different than like a duration skill. So if I stop channeling, like I have to click on like, you know, like a door or something, right? I have to re-snapshot. Now, this one, it's not as bad because I don't have to wait for the runes to actually activate. But with this one over here, I would want to, let's say, use my Shadow Imbue. Then maybe I want to use my Shadow Clone. The last thing that I want to do is Concealment. And then I just want to go ahead and hold this down. And I don't want to let go. And the reason why I want to use Concealment last is because that will activate my Subterfuge skill. My Subterfuge skill will then give me the bonus of that 100% crit, and you're seeing all of the numbers, they're all in the crit form. So that's how you're able to basically snapshot. And these are just a few examples. There's a ton of different ones, but I want to kind of give you guys a few different variety of examples. It's everywhere. It's in your passives, it's in your skill tree, so try to utilize them. And if you're watching any like good build guides, most of them will probably explain it in some sort of form to like, okay, they'll say just snapshot this, and that's kind of what they mean is you need to activate these in a certain order, because if I was to, let's say, activate Concealment and then do another ability, right, then I've snapshotted, I've essentially activated Shadow Step, so it's going to erase this thing over here. And then if I also happen to have Dance Macabre, that Shadow Step would then eat up this thing. But technically, it's also a mobility skill if I was to, let's say, use that one. So sometimes you can actually try to build your character to have multiple different snapshots, so you have different things available. There are people out there that do play Dance of Knives with 2 imbuements. And the reason why you can get 2 imbuements is you have like certain things where like all your skills are imbued if X, Y, and Z condition is. But hopefully this video helped you guys out. If there was any confusion on the snapshotting mechanic, definitely let me know, as it's a question I get asked quite significantly, like consistently, is like, how do you snapshot? Because my build is doing a lot less damage than, I see this other person's build. And the reason why is you have to maintain the snapshot correctly. And also, I want to mention that you could inverse snapshot, because if you do not get the snapshot properly and you're still using the skill, which is very important on Cataclysm, where if you don't snapshot it, right, and it's still casting, if you activate it while it's still on the duration, like it hasn't ended, you could re-snapshot the non-snapshotted one. So you have to make sure that you need for the skills and or the buffs to completely be removed before you reattempt a snapshot, because you could be on the wrong rotation, if that makes any sense. But once the rotation is there, you're done. With this one though, every single time I stop and reactivate my shadow clone, I have to reactivate my shadow imbue, okay? And then I also have to activate concealment if I want that critical like hit chance. This one's a little bit more forgiving. It's just really annoying on the double rune wards. That's where I think a lot of people will have trouble, because you have to then time these snapshots to be perfect. Some of them will play a rune called Bach, and they will activate the skill, then move, and then they will activate that skill to get the bonus. It's specifically with a rune called Quacks, and basically that is a little bit more difficult, but again, you just need to time all of these things perfectly. That's just how snapshotting works, and it's a huge advantage to the build. Like I said, it's literally 100x damage for certain builds, so do not skip out on it. But there are builds out there if you don't want to play snapshotting. Technically, Necro is a lot more forgiving on it, but almost every build this season, because of the ability to get some of these witchcraft powers, it is just in your advantage just to learn at least how it works. But hopefully the video was informative and you learned something new. If you did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell, and you'll see more guides and content in the future. Take care, and I'm out. Peace.